And so when a floral designer puts in an order for, maybe typically they put in a $500 and $800 order, and then all of a sudden they're putting in $6,000, $7,000 orders. You're like, okay, they believe in
Wow.
us. Yeah, they believe in us, and they know we're going to come through for them.
You're listening to Ecosysteming, the podcast redefining economic development through the lens of equitable entrepreneurship. Join NC Idea as we engage with entrepreneurs and experts who are challenging the status quo and driving lasting change.
Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Ecosysteming podcast. I am your host, Thom Ruhe, and today it is my great pleasure to be joined by a friend and exceptional entrepreneur here in North Carolina's ecosystem, Amy Dunlap, who is the founder and CEO of Stemz. Amy, thank you for being in studio today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is very exciting.
No more so for me, though. I mean, this is one of the best parts of my job, is being able to meet, with people like you, people we've supported, people we have a relationship with, people whose story we want to share, because you've done so much. Now, I have to do my host duty, so let me give the official description of Stemz.
Got it.
A logistics and tech company focused on cultivating, clever, well done, cultivating connectivity between U.S. flower farmers and wholesale flower buyers. How about you restate that now in English in a way that our viewers and listeners would really understand the essence of what Stemz does? And that's the word STEM with, cleverly again, is Z at the end.
Yes. So probably the easiest way to describe it is that we are the connection point between the flower farmers that are around us regionally and wholesale floral buyers, which are typically florists, floral designers. But our target customer is definitely wedding and event designers. Those are our biggest buyers. So farmers have a difficult time trying to sell. The supply chain is a little bit broken. So kind of what we're doing is providing that missing layer in the supply chain that really connects and gives an efficient way for the farmers to sell and for these wholesale buyers to actually have visibility to what's available and then physically receive the flowers.
So, I do a little bit of prep. Spoiler alert. You've been in this industry
I have.
for many years, starting at like 16.
16, yes, working in a florist, washing buckets.
So you're 35 now.
Ha ha ha.
So that's a few years in the industry. But you are a self-proclaimed flower junkie.
Yes.
And you've been in the space. There's so many points I can jump into this because obviously we know what you do. Let's start with, what was the fundamental challenge for growers? Is it like just a tech solution before Stemz?
Yeah.
Was there just not good options? Is it because the growers are just not tech savvy, or there wasn't the marketplace?
Well, the industry has been super interesting in that it's shifted a lot from what it was prior to the early 90s, where in the United States, we actually did produce the bulk of the flowers were grown here, and now 80% are shipped from overseas.
Really?
Yes, and
So we import 80%?
we import 80% of the flowers. So when you just sit on that a minute, right?
I
Go to the grocery store, or if you're at a wedding, 80% of the flowers are shipped from overseas. But it wasn't like that before the 90s. It was part of the legislation with the Just Say No war on drugs, where
Right.
we incentivized farms in South America to grow flowers. And and so that kind of disseminated
Wow.
the floral industry here. So, and then it totally kind of shut down. And there's definitely a resurgence of a lot of smaller flower farms. I mean, they've been around, but the trouble is just the visibility. Like, as a wholesale buyer, you don't know where they are or what they have to sell. So, like, looking back on my experiences when I owned a floral design shop, I would have farmers just kind of randomly show up in their SUV or
No
truck
kidding.
with beautiful flowers, but I had no idea what they were going to have, when they were going to come, and a lot of times I had already purchased what I needed from the import market, and so I didn't feel like I could support them. but I also didn't feel like there was the volume that I needed or the consistency.
Right. Hard to
So
kind of build
right.
predictability.
Yeah. So really, prior to Stemz, a lot of the farmers really depend on farmers markets, CSAs, or they just drive around from florist to florist and sell. So it's not efficient, super unpredictable. I mean, any farmer that does markets knows if it's a rainy weekend, their sales are going to be a lot lower. So what we are giving is that more, steady, efficient supply.
Predictability.
Yeah, that predictability for the farms.
I'm still stuck on that, like, how this changed in the '90s. I mean, talk about
Yeah.
law of unintended consequences.
Absolutely. It was one of those that was just, it was just an unknown effect of what that legislation did, which I mean, certainly we wanna fight the war on drugs, but
But yeah, but, like, if it comes at the expense,
yeah, yeah, it's
right?
interesting to read the history of the floral industry for sure. So now things are changing. I mean, there definitely are a lot more flower farmers. I'm not the only one trying to fix this. There's been a lot of co-ops created. There are a few more just tech platforms out there trying to connect florists with farmers. The problem, I think, with just a solely tech solution is they're just missing the hard part. We're doing that really hard logistics part, which is actually getting the flowers from the farms that are mostly in these rural areas to the more metropolitan areas where there is that high demand.
So before the platforms, I'm trying to think, okay, so then how was that done prior? Let's pretend it's pre-90s and, we're 80% of our own
Mhm.
source. Was it, again, just markets? Was it you knew certain growers and you had handshake relationships with them that you could
Yeah, I was pretty young back then, so I mean, I was working in the floral industry in the early '90s, but, wasn't in the buying capacity, obviously, at that point. I think that a lot of the wholesalers that are here just had farmer relationships
right.
with the growers and the farmers, and so they were able to get these high volume of flowers within the United States.
The reason I'm asking is, and this is a common thing, with entrepreneurship and great founders seeing a problem in the marketplace and are out solving it. There's parallels, right? Like we have funded a company called Local
Oh,
Catch.
catch.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Christian, our producer, helped me out there. Local Catch, and it's a very similar. When I talk to him about like the origins of it, is there are fishermen who will go out, daily or multiple times in a week, but they don't know preemptively what exactly they're gonna catch,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And it's a perishable,
Perishable. Yep.
um, probably even a little more perishable than flowers. I'm guessing flowers would have a slightly longer shelf life than fish, but the same thing, same
Yeah.
logistics, right? Like, how
Mhm.
do they get to either, an approved circuit of restaurants, which
Mhm.
in your case would be the floral, event
Mhm.
planners and, event planners and things like that, and how can you put predictability in the market that other people can build, their businesses around this uncertain supply chain?
Right. And that is one of the trickiest parts is building that buyer trust that, we build the platform, we have the farms, we've started growing, we're starting to have the volume, but can those buyers trust that we're going to come through with them for them? And really, it's been pretty exciting because I feel like this is the year that's really clicking for us. We are we have a very strong group of repeat buyers in all of our different routes, and that average order size keeps going up. And so when a floral designer puts in an order for maybe typically they put in a $500 and $800 order, and then all of a sudden they're putting in $6,000, $7,000 orders. You're like, okay, they believe in
Wow.
us. Yeah, they believe in us and they know we're going to come through for them. And because we have such a larger network of farms now in different geographic areas, it kind of de-risks it a little bit. So
Sure.
even if there is a crop failure or Mother Nature makes it difficult for a farmer, we have other farmers we can lean on.
So, what do you credit, like, doing this entrepreneurial, like, scratching this entrepreneurial itch, right?
Right.
You are you are a veteran of the industry. You've seen multiple facets of it.
Mhm.
You could have just as easily plugged in, to a known node, so to speak.
Mhm.
But around 2018, if my
Yeah.
research is correct, you saw this gap. Okay. You're not the only one that understands these gaps.
Yeah.
Here's where I'm driving with this.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs are different because they see, opportunity or needs in the market that other people do as well, but not everybody like takes the initiative to do about that. So
Right.
what would you credit? Like what happened in 2018 that you were like, hey, there's this problem. I want to solve that problem.
Yeah, and I mean, really, if you're gonna be an entrepreneur and have a startup, you gotta really love that problem because and it's like a puzzle trying to figure it out, and I think that's what has kept me coming back. But honestly, I was in the floral design. I owned a studio and designed for weddings for 13 years, closed that in 2018. We have some land. I have a degree in horticulture. I feel like I would know what to grow and what the designers would like. And so I considered flower farming only to really take a step back and think about how am I going to sell those flowers
Right.
if I'm a flower farmer, and I didn't like the options. And so, I didn't know exactly how I was going to build it or what it was going to look like. And so part of it the journey has been so interesting, and that has just kept me going. And then honestly, just seeing the impact we have, particularly on the farm side, it's
Oh,
just so rewarding. And it feels like, not only am I doing something for the industry that I've always been in and always cared about and loved, but having that impact that I can see, on a daily basis.
I would imagine, and I would imagine you had the data to confirm,
Mhm.
you're helping farmers with top line revenue
Yeah.
and margins. If you're making it easier and more efficient for them to get product to market,
Mhm.
I mean, you are actually helping farmers at a time where they need help.
Sure. I mean, I feel very strongly that flower farming you should be a career that you can make a good living at and not have to have side hustles and other side jobs, which a lot of them do. But yeah, we're giving them a very steady stream of revenue. And a lot of them, I love it because they're growing with us. Like we really work hard at data management,
Right.
forecasting reports, helping them and showing them what the demand really is and what the buyers really want. So they're growing the volume of the right kind of stuff that
So you're
sells.
generating business intelligence
Mm,
on their behalf and sharing that with them.
yes.
That's just beautiful. I mean, you
Yeah.
want to talk about building relationships that
Yeah.
last.
Yeah.
You're investing in their business, they're gonna wanna help support yours.
Yes, it's a beautiful relationship, and honestly, it's, like, beautiful on both sides. So my co-founder, Claire, is a flower farmer also, so she's seen firsthand the impact on her farm, which is wonderful, and she really is kind of the voice of the farmer in the business, and I am a little more on the buyer design side and seeing even the impact that we're having on the buyer side because they're able to get their hands on such diverse flowers. What sells in the import market is very different looking than what's growing around here. And a lot of the flowers are in very high demand. They just don't have a very good shelf life. And so they don't ship well, so they're harder to get. And so we have designers that what I think are creating absolutely the most beautiful floral art and are able to take it to the next level because they have access to these beautiful flowers.
That's incredible.
So
I apologize, this is tangential, viewers, listeners. Sorry for 1 second, but if you've watched this podcast long enough, my crazy quilt brain goes in different places. But I was watching some reel, recently about, um, easy or kind of no-brainer cash flow management businesses, right?
mhm,
And the person that made the video is talking about, like, vending machines and other stuff that you can make decent income from.
mhm.
And I was surprised in his top 9, devices, floral vending machines.
Oh,
And
wow.
he claimed data that, like, it's a growing field. It's been more legitimized overseas,
Mhm.
but now, like, if you can get your hands on ostensibly, it's a cooler,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And stock it and put it in places like, hospitals or airports or
Yeah,
where
that's good.
people need to do would want to do spontaneous flower purchase.
Mhm.
I was blown away. I was like, I wouldn't have even thought of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've seen that a little bit.
It's
Yeah.
per to his video, it's growing,
Okay.
here in the States. But you had said, and I always like to do a little bit to the extent you're comfortable, the biographical. Your
Yeah.
degree in horticulture from a little school in Kentucky, and then a master's from a little school in Florida.
Correct. Yeah.
So how are you here in North Carolina with the rest of us transplants?
Yeah, I actually grew up in Hickory.
Did you?
Yes, so I grew up in Hickory, moved there in 3rd grade, grew up there, ended up at University of Kentucky. My dad went there, and I just felt very drawn there. I mean, this is way off topic, but I play the piano, and I was gonna be a music major, and so when I applied to colleges, I auditioned at all the colleges that, I wanted that I was interested in, and got in and got some scholarships only to be totally burned out and decided at the last minute that I wanted to do horticulture, and so Kentucky was the school that, had a good program that I had already gotten into. I mean, in hindsight, NC State probably would have been a great option, but, at the time, that's where I ended up, and it was a great, great experience, and I still play the piano some. Yeah.
It's interesting. I have a daughter who did something similarly. She
Yeah.
ended up going to DePaul University in Chicago, and she had other options, but the differentiation was, she wasn't gonna major in music, but she does cello, violin,
Mhm.
piano, and they just had good, like, access to classes and
Okay.
facilities, so that was, like, the tipping point for her.
Mhm.
But, like, okay, go figure, you're a creative person. I think you've just established your bona fides, right? It's not just
Yeah.
floral arranging and understanding that, but clearly you're working out of your creative space.
I definitely, and it's funny, Claire and I are my co-founder and I are such a great, mix because I am clearly visionary creative, and she has a corporate background, and so we balance each other out beautifully. Yeah.
Well, okay, not so fast. You have I mean, it wasn't a long time there, but you do have experience with this little big company that a lot of people know and a lot of people consider one of those pedigree companies if you can work there. And it has a big mouse as their logo. But you did do
I did
like
have
a little year or so
I
at
did
Disney,
I
right?
did, yes, I designed flowers at Walt Disney World. It
They go through a
was
few flowers.
just a few. Yeah, it was a big operation. It was a big learning experience. You're in a room with all these different designers, and the coolers are just huge, and
And I would imagine they grow their own.
absolutely not.
Really?
No, that's all imported.
No kidding.
No, they don't grow their own.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're just part of the floral, you know, machine that everyone is in. So
I just
boxes of flowers would get shipped in and then processed.
I just
Yeah.
imagine in Florida, California, like
Yeah. I see that, but no, no, I don't. I mean, back then, probably some of it was American grown, I'm sure, but not grown there. But yeah, that was an interesting experience. I have a funny story. Like for part of the time, I worked at the Grand Floridian Hotel,
right?
and so I worked with someone else, and we had our little uniforms, and we had a cart, flowers, and they had these huge arrangements in the lobby, and so that was part of the Disney show. Was
Right.
us. Changing out. So we would take our cart and go in the lobby and stand up on the table in
Oh,
the
so this was
lobby.
performative.
Oh, yeah, in the lobby because it was this huge arrangement, and remove that one and then redesign while the guests were checking in.
How often did they do that? Is that a
It was
daily
like
function?
it was like once or twice a week,
I was gonna say,
yeah.
because those are massive.
Massive, yeah, but that was pretty fun. I mean,
I would imagine that'd be
yeah,
great.
yeah.
I mean, I could picture uh, it was many years ago. The kids were small. My kids are late 20s and early 30s now. So probably at least 20 years ago. But like I would have seen my kids fascinated with that.
Yeah.
They would have been like in your way, while
Yeah.
mom and dad were checking in while you were doing
Mhm.
your thing. But
This was definitely before cell phones, so there were no videos or pictures.
right.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was fun interacting with the guests some, but that was an unusual experience, but a good one.
So 2018, you've
Mhm.
seen this gap. You're going to do something about it. You're going to make the world a better place for, growers and wholesale buyers. Um, how did you connect with us? So I should say you were a 2019 micro,
Yeah.
50,000 or $10,000 winner,
Mhm.
2021 seed,
Yes.
$50,000 grant winner.
Mhm.
And then in 2025, recently, you were a recipient of the Rural Impact Grant.
Correct. Yeah.
How do you like those free checks?
I love the free checks.
Yeah, free money
Love
doesn't suck,
NC
does
Idea.
it?
It does not suck. And I mean, I am so incredibly grateful that found out about NC Idea when I
How
did.
did you?
It was another entrepreneur, Nate Petey. He is with Orbital RX.
Oh,
Long, we are old friends, and I had my idea about stems, and my husband said, "You need to talk to Nate and get his." And he was kind of in the beginning stages of his startup, and he has been kind of a loose mentor advisor throughout, and he was the one that told me about NC Idea and said, "Hey, you should check them out." And then I applied to well, the very first thing I did was sign up for John Austin's office hours, which I think was
smooth move.
one of the braver things I've ever done. I was a nervous wreck, and we laugh about that now when I see
Right.
John. But I signed up, and he encouraged me to apply for labs
Yeah.
back then. So, and that was before Zoom. So I drove to Durham for labs for whatever that, 4 or 5 week period. Um, and that was great because it taught me all about customer discovery.
So was that 2018? You
That
did
was
labs before applying
I
for micro?
I did, yeah. I talked to John Austin. I did labs. And then micro. Yeah.
We've changed a little bit. Labs used to be a standalone. Labs is ostensibly now the required program for micro.
Oh, okay.
So if you get a mic, we don't offer it just to the public like we used
Mm-hmm.
to. We reserve it for the micro grantees because we learned over time that we went earlier stage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Micro was a discovery process for us that when we really wanted to see, more historically underserved, underrepresented founders,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like y'all weren't as entrepreneurial ambitious as anybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just what the kind of environmental factors that made you competitive for seed
Mm-hmm.
was predominantly vested in like white males in the major metro area, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Access to IP, networks, money. And so we had to go earlier stage is a
Mm-hmm.
long way of getting at this.
Yeah.
That's what micro did for us. And then that took it did what we were hoping it was going to do. The theory being if we go earlier stage, we're going to catch people at these very important inflection points
Yeah.
where a little bit of validation money can go a long way. And
Absolutely.
more importantly, then we get to love on you. We have an excuse. You're part of the family, this thing of ours, as we like to refer to it.
Yeah.
And then we can help along the way. And you've been
I
just
I mean,
exceptional.
we just went through the NC Idea. I mean, I feel like I followed all the steps and got all the support at the right times. It was incredible. I mean, that $10,000, I mean, it wasn't just $10,000, it was validation that I was like,
Right.
"Okay, I'm not," because I mean, owning a floral shop, I was an entrepreneur in a
Sure.
way,
You very
but
much. You don't have to qualify that.
yeah, but it wasn't something I was trying to scale. It was
Right.
just, and so I knew from the beginning that if I were gonna do this, I had to get some help figuring out I had no idea how to go about building a company that could be scalable. And so, but getting that micro grant was great because it was that validation, but it was also our first van,
Yeah.
Bessie, which Bessie's retired now, but, she did a
Did
ton of deliveries.
did Bessie suffer an injury? I think I saw a photo as I was doing all my prep work
Uh-huh.
of like a dented side of
Oh,
van?
probably,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, she was it was an old church van that we gutted, and it said when we bought it, First Christian Church on the side, so we had to
Nice.
scrape that, and yeah, but it worked, and it gave us the metrics we needed,
Yeah.
and it showed us, okay, farms are willing to go on, at that time, Google Sheets, and
Right.
fill out what they had, and buyers were willing to talk to us, and
Here's a piece of trivia.
okay.
Your van was not the only one NCIDEA funded.
I
So
know the other one.
do you?
I think I know.
Who?
It's the brewery in Asheville.
Yes, Ben
Yes.
Colvin.
Yes,
Devil's Foot.
because we met, pretty recently. I think it was the Ecosystem Summit, and
Yep.
we exchanged that story
Yeah.
about how we both got vans.
Yeah, it was funny because bless his heart too. We got to get him, Christian. We have to really get him into the studio as well. He's
Nice guy.
also like you, like Run Bin Dong, who was a guest a couple weeks ago. Like just the quintessential, right? Somebody that understands
Mhm.
how to extract also the full value of the ecosystem, right?
Right.
You can imagine that in my job, I run into a lot of people, and as you know, we get hundreds of people to apply
Right.
for a very limited number of grants we can make.
Mhm.
The demand, the capacity, the demand for what we can fund is far and away greater than our capacity to fund it.
Mhm.
So it's very common for me to run into somebody that's mildly disgruntled with us. Yeah, I
Oh.
applied. You guys weren't smart enough to fund me, and one of the more egregious times when that has happened, I've asked Wes, "Well, what did you think about the feedback you got as part of the
Mhm.
application process
Yeah.
and learning?" And this gentleman, I kid you not, said, "What feedback?" He just knew he didn't get the answer he wanted
So
and
he didn't read
stopped.
anything?
Didn't read anything, right?
Ah.
But people like you understand how to
Oh,
extract, and it's not just NCD. And thank you, by the way, for all those kind words. We feel it's a
yeah.
privilege to support people like
Ugh.
you because you put so much into it. But you also have other great partners. I mean,
Yeah.
our friends at Winston Starts,
Winston Starts has been incredible. We became
they are
Winston's.
incredible.
Yeah, yeah, we've been there for a few years. I work out of the office, a few days a week, and I have a couple key advisors that I've gotten through Winston Starts and have really appreciated the support I've gotten there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had the good fortune before it was open.
Mhm.
I was given a tour when it was still under construction.
Mm.
And so now every time I go and visit, I think there's 7 or 8 NCIDF funded companies that call Winston Start home.
Mhm.
And the value of community,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
I mean, community is a form of currency. Like literally, like you can get benefit, you can extract benefit from your community that's as important as somebody stroking you a check because it's a
Yeah.
person you need. It's a potential client, a co-founder, or an investor or somebody that's actually going
Yeah.
to stroke you a check. And the fact that you can leverage the ecosystem like that, one of the things I like to do when I have somebody in the hot seat like you is just, what advice would you give to somebody starting right now, based upon what you've learned? I
Yeah.
mean, we've had this conversation, we had it at your big anniversary
Yeah.
last year, like how you've grown, right, in
Yeah.
this. What would you share?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing is just being brave enough to take the meeting or make the meeting. It wasn't intuitive for me to like put myself out there. It was a little bit difficult to just like I went to Winston Starts before Labs just to talk to them, and I was too early for their program. I was like, okay, well, I'm too early for their program, so now I'm going to go try this place, and then I'm going to go talk to this person. But every time I did one of those meetings, someone would say, "Oh, well, I think there's someone else you need to talk to, or I'd like to connect you to this person." And there was a whole lot of that, a lot of emailing back and,
Right.
connections, introductions. And I just never said no. I just always said yes to the introduction because I don't know if this person, is a good, and
Right.
I met some incredible people, got some great advice, got steered in all kinds of different directions, but was able to lean on the ecosystem because people knew me because I put myself out there and said yes.
Eh,
Okay, I'll go to coffee or and I mean just walking into an office the first time, just like going into NCID the first time. I mean, it's very maybe out of my element. Doing this podcast is a little out of my
You know,
element.
it's weird to hear you say that because
Yeah.
for the, I mean, we don't go back, decades, but for the
Yeah.
years I've known you, you've struck me as nothing but comfortable, gregarious, confident.
I love that.
So I'm trying not to call bullshit on what you're saying,
It's not.
but like, it's hard for me to believe because I think to me, you're like inspirational in that regard. Like I would hold you out to others, right? And like we all go to so many events, for example,
Yeah.
and invariably I will look for the scaredest, the most frightened person that
Uh-huh.
I can see uncomfortably not engaging.
Mhm.
And I actually think it's kind of in our job description to do this. And I will just go out, extend my hand, say, "Hi, I'm so and so."
Yeah.
I mean, why are you here, right? If
Yeah.
not to meet people.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and
that
it's
to me has
hard.
always felt just,
No, that's not natural for me, I don't think, at
well,
all.
kudos.
Thank you. Uh,
You founded a flower school.
mhm.
I think your next school should be like kind of helping entrepreneurs overcome.
Well, that is one thing I also don't say no to. Like, when I have someone reach out to me asking for advice or, "Hey, can we get a coffee?"
Oh yeah.
I've always say
You've been
yes.
very kind about that.
I
You spoke at our summit last year
Yeah, that was
to
fun.
rave reviews, I should
Thank
say,
you. Thank
as we
you.
knew as we knew that people would
Yeah.
react to, but
I do have it's interesting, it makes me think of a story, I've done a lot of pitch events, which are also not the easiest thing for me to do. You really have to
a good practice,
It's
yes.
great practice. It's a great practice. So a lot of events with judges and, all that kind of stuff. And there was this one that I did where I did okay, but I ran out of time, so I felt like I was cut off, and I just didn't love my performance, so I was really pretty hard on myself. I obviously didn't win, but I was driving, it was an hour drive home, and I was upset because 'cause I'd put so much effort into it, and I felt like, I just didn't quite perform the way I wanted to, um, but yet I met, Phil Oswalt there. I don't know if you know him from High Country Impact Fund, and he reached out after and said, "I really love your concept and love what you had to say." And, they turned out to be one of our investors in our pre-seed round. So you never know.
You never know,
You never know.
and that's great advice, and
Yeah.
so now if there's one area I can believe would be high stress, and you just alluded to it,
Mhm.
and that is when you go out and start raising money.
Yes.
And not all companies have to go do that. The higher growth, more aspirational ones typically do.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'll be honest with you, I loved Stemz from your first application, like, because I think I could see that gap in the market as well.
Mhm.
And this being a very big ag state,
Yeah.
like we love things that can also like just be good for the broader,
Sure.
ecosystem at the state level. But, whether or not you were going to go down this private equity path is like, it's a new two-sided market. Like, that's
Mhm.
not easy to do.
Right.
And then you just quietly kept building and building. And then, all of a sudden I hear that you're closing, a seed round. And I was like, what? And again, I think Whisper Funds
Yes, and I
in.
can, share that we have decided to launch our next seed round, and
Good for
I did
you.
my first pitch last night.
Did you now?
Yes, so I will be sending out and to you, our deck and, reaching out to people that might be interested, but yeah, we are, looking to raise 1,000,000
That's
and,
awesome.
grow to our next, what we're calling super hub location, so
So Super Hub, is that still regional or is this
it's all
next
regional.
stage go national?
Well, it's regional flowers, but it's another location that it's not we have done our market research, and we know kind of what kind of market we want and what works, and so we're very, very closely looking at opening our next hub in Nashville.
And is that what expansion for Stemz is gonna
Yeah.
be? Like just going into next markets?
Yes. So next markets that have high demand, mostly because Charleston right now, we go to Charleston, South Carolina from Winston-Salem, and right now it's 46% of our revenue. And that's just because it is a high event heavy area.
Oh, yeah.
And Nashville's like 3 times that. So the demand is there. It's just a destination wedding place. But then also there's just a high density of specialty cut flower growers in Tennessee.
What's the hardest part about going into a new market? Is it finding all the growers?
I think the hardest. Well, we haven't grown to a new market yet. We've really stayed. Our base is in Winston-Salem, and then we service Raleigh, Charlotte, Asheville, Charleston, and the Triad. But it's been a little bit kind of word of mouth organic in those areas, I will say. So we haven't gone to a brand new area yet. But I think kind of for us, the hardest part of any of this is the logistics. Like what keeps me up at night is it going to fit in the truck? It used to be, oh gosh, we're sending a truck and it's not very full.
Right.
Now we're getting to the point where the problems are getting to be quality problems, and it's like we need another truck. So
you're going to need a bigger truck.
Yes, I've gotten to know the Penske people very well. So, I think that we already have a couple farms in Tennessee that are coming to us, bringing their product to Winston-Salem, and we've got a good network going and a lot of interest. And I've been in the industry so long, and I go to a lot of, or I try to, as I have time, go to more national type events and talk to people. But I feel like I've got a great network and feel really good about taking this next step. We call it a super hub because it's a larger, more metro area.
Right.
I think Winston-Salem's a little more of a medium market.
Do you need a physical presence, or is it just a truck that has to show up in a new market?
We are going to have a physical presence, but I think we'll be able to run trucks between Winston-Salem and Nashville.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that mostly just for storage, cold storage?
Yeah. We receive, because it's such a high volume of flowers, that so much that comes in, we need a place to sort all the orders
Right.
and house the trucks. Yeah.
So, about a year ago, was that when you had the anniversary of the event that came in?
Yeah, last August we had our 5-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I remember our conversation that night. You were kind of in this position of like, hey, I need to spend some time working on the business.
Yes.
Instead of in the business.
Yes.
And again, for the novice entrepreneur or nascent entrepreneur watching this again was Amy coming to a realization that most successful entrepreneurs have to, and that is at some point in time, when you're putting out the fires of the day,
Yeah.
it's easy to neglect stuff that's long-term.
Yes.
Right? And has benefit and upside for the company. How did you come to that realization?
Well, we had a really, really good fall, this last fall season, kind of right around that anniversary event. And we were bringing in much more volume. And we realized if we're going to grow this to what we want it to be, if we're going to hit these high, targets, revenue targets, we have got to get a handle on our operations. And we felt like the way we were doing it was doable, but not replicable. So we spent this
doable, but not replicable.
Yeah, we could do it, but it wasn't something we could teach other people to do, or didn't feel like something we could have an SOP about and, and go to other areas and train people. So we spent the winter, did a deep dive into what we needed to do to make our hub right now in Winston-Salem something that we could replicate in another place. That has been the main goal. And so we in-house, I have a scrappy team. I mean, they are so great. And we are really, really good at taking idea, testing it, doing a beta, and then rolling it out. And we did that with packaging and labeling. That was our big thing. Before we received flowers, and we just received everything and sorted it all in-house. And that required a lot of flower knowledge. And we had quality issues and damage because the flowers weren't protected. So we now all of our farmers, and they're participating and being fantastic, are doing all of the wrapping of the bunches glitches and labeling. And so we in-house created our own labeling system, and it's really badass. I mean, it's awesome.
Great.
A lot of AI and, just putting our heads together and whiteboards, and we figured it out. And so we bought printers for our beta farmers this spring, and they were printing the labels and labeling. It worked well. A couple glitches, worked them out. Several more iterations, and now the application is running, and all of our farms have been onboarded. So everything we receive now, we can scan into a system, track it. We've got traceability. We realize if something's missing, where it should go. It's just gotten it's allowed things to go so much more efficient and smoother. So we're not only able to do more, but we're going to have stronger margins because of it.
I'm going to double click because I know part of the story because you shared it with me.
Hmm.
And again, it's something that as we put nuggets out there of wisdom, for you, it's a nothing, but it's significant. And that is you have invested so much goodwill with your farmers, your growers, so that as you were contemplating this labeling
Yeah.
new system, you had direct input from, a very important part.
Yeah.
We can't just gloss over that because for too many people, right, especially if they're at this inflection point,
Hmm.
kind of like where you were last year and now you're riding the wave up,
Hmm.
you can fall down a rabbit hole trying to come up with a solution, but in a vacuum.
Yeah.
When the people you're serving can shorten that, cut time in half and just say, no, 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 you're assuming this, that's not really our big problem. It's this.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
so you can pivot your focus. You know, I can you just say a little bit about how important those, because they
Yeah.
were at your party. I met some of your growers
Yeah.
that were singing your praises. I mean, think about that, folks. That's your clients singing your praises. You think they're going to stay loyal and work with you a little bit with that kind of a relationship? Yes.
Yeah, and we were very thoughtful about the approach because I was nervous because
Right.
they depend on us, we depend on them. We want to grow together, but it felt like it could be a big ask. And so we have an annual farm partner meeting, and Winston Starts lets us use their awesome facility.
Yep.
And all the farms come, and we spend a couple hours talking about how the year went, what went well, what could be improved. Do they have ideas? And then in that meeting, we opened up questions and said, this is where we think we have to go. If we are going to keep growing, and if this company, if we can, you know, keep increasing revenue for you and then bring more farms on and make this really impactful, powerful company, this is what we really have to do. And I mean, they were on board. We did a beta, we worked out pricing,
Yeah.
it's going great. It puts more on them, but they can also sell
You're
more,
helping their
and we're
top
able to
line.
do more. Yeah, so it's really a beautiful relationship. But I think it was key to involve them in the conversation. Like, hey, we want to try this. What do you think? How is this going to impact? Can you do it? And listening to all of them and all of their input. And it wasn't even just that we needed them to do it, but hey, how do you like to wrap? What product do you like to use? What's
Right.
your system? And getting their feedback on so we could kind of streamline a packaging system that makes sense for everyone.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It always amazes me how, again, people like you in your position, this just kind of is happenstance. Like you evolved into it and you don't think about it, but it is hugely important,
Yeah.
right? These are the pillars. And that's why you're at a point now you can scale to a market like Nashville.
Yeah.
And everything you've learned in that space is just going to help continue that. So, unfortunately, I got to kind of wind this down. I could go for much longer.
Can I say one more thing?
You can say anything you want.
I think it is one of the things that is amazing is that I'm here right now, and next week is Mother's Day week, which is
Oh,
basically
yeah.
our Super Bowl.
Right.
That's basically our Super Bowl. And in previous years, we are scrambling and
Your hair's on fire.
I mean, it's just we're resting up, getting ready for late nights, and I have to just commend my team. My team is incredible. They are pulling off just the most amazing things. And what has happened is, Mother's Day week has always been our biggest sales week.
Sure.
And starting Easter this year, every week, our sales have exceeded Mother's Day last year.
Ooh.
Right. And so, which is awesome. I mean, we're
Yes, it
crushing
is.
our numbers, but it's a quick growth. And so they're having to really step in and do a lot of juggling and fixing things and figuring it out to make it happen. And the fact that I can be here right now is amazing. And it's a big testament to how great of a team I have. They truly believe in the vision. So
It's also a testament to how in control you are of the agency that you have in yourself and the evolution of the company, that you can even recognize that, right?
yeah.
So many would be, again, so down in the weeds,
Mm,
they wouldn't understand, like, it would go over their head that, like, why am I not breathing heavier right
yeah.
now, right?
yeah.
But you are so in tune with everything in that regard, and it doesn't happen by accident. And I guess the point I'm trying to draw out for the listener is it's intentional.
Yeah.
You are one of the more intentional founders that we work with. And that's why you're such an inspiration to so many people, right? You just created an industry out of whole cloth that's going to serve not only your family's interest in building a successful company that'll
Mhm,
generate wealth for you and your family, but you're generating community wealth collectively
mhm.
because you're so intentional and thoughtful in that process. So
Thank you. That's very kind.
you've earned it, and it's the truth. So I think we'll have to leave it
Okay.
there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But just thanks for letting NC Idea be a small part of your journey. I normally like to say to some of our founders, and when you're wildly successful and you have a big exit and you have these watershed
Mhm.
moments financially, remember the little folks that might have helped you along the way, but you are so generous in giving back and supporting the ecosystem. I know I don't have to say that.
You don't have to say that for sure, and
So,
thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
are you kidding?
Pleasure.
Pleasure is mine. With that, dear viewers,
Mm.
wow, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. But as usual, if you have ideas for guests or topics, be sure to let us know. You can find this anywhere you stream your podcasts. And thanks again, Amy, and so much continued success for Stemz.
Thank you so much.